Hello, we are Cold Leg Games and this is our game Beyond Repair. Our group is comprised of Aaron Moss, Fraser Allen, Jasem Alsair, Lawrence Gardner, Haroon Khan and myself, Peter Hurst.
This is a work which... it's ancient and yet it captures so much of human history, it makes so much sense and...
Beyond Repair is a survival horror game in the style of the early Resident Evil and Silent Hill games involving static cameras and tank track controls. The player, alone and vulnerable, must survive their time in Mortwood Manor, the residence of a once proud house turned into a home for mad cults, twisted experiments and the living dead.
It explained my recurring dream. That strange dream I had.
The monster, inspired by the weeping angels from Doctor Who and Celtic folklore, can only be stopped when light is shined on it, being dead in the light but fully alive and deadly in the dark. Uncover dark mysteries as you survive Mortwood Manor.
Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming.
For this project, I took on the role of level design. It was my job to create the areas the player would get to explore, and make sure that they all felt like they belonged in the world we were creating.
Experiment number 59. Jeffrey is dead.
Seeing as Beyond Repair is a horror game, it was important to make sure that the atmosphere reflected that. The area which took the most time was the corridor, seeing as the majority of the gameplay took place in. For this to be an effective game, each level had to follow the same principles. They had to be dark and eerie. During this project, I was also responsible for creating a few scripted events. One of these events consisted of the lights going out one by one. This method was used to help improve the atmosphere and nicely round off the level. Beyond Repair was a fun game to work on, as I have always wanted to partake in the creation of a horror game.
Oh god, I killed someone today. They just...
My work started out as weighting and rigging the player character's model, which I refined at the start of this term, making sure the model would animate cleanly.
After her tongue was cut out, she just stares at me, and those chains that keep her together they don't stop rattling.
I had been sketching for the Edwardian House's contents for some time already, and after finishing the rigging, I moved on to working on them full time. Once I had those finished, I selected the best of them and produced the colour concepts. These I then take into Maya and used to create the model from. I created the diffuse maps in Photoshop, which I then used to produce the normal and specular maps for each asset. My models consisted of some houseplants, a display cabinet, a wide variety of books, open and closed, a variety of wall paintings and portraits, landscapes, a decorative wallpaper and wooden flooring. I spent a lot of time when researching and designing these models to make sure they would suit the Edwardian theme and could all be found in the time period.
My wife, it's almost as if a curse has been placed upon this house, but my wife has just not woken up. I'm an expert at surgery. I can repair broken hearts, I can perform heart surgery, but she's just not waking up.
Sound. It's always been a key component in video games. Whilst visuals tend to impress people more than audio, audio is what really encompasses the final product, adding that final chill to a scene, or that icing on the cake, if you will.
These works are amazing. They fill in all sorts of gaps, from the Gnostic Gospels, the Celtic mythology. This is a work which... it's ancient and yet it...
Our sound is heavily influenced by the original Resident Evil games, where a music score in the background wasn't a luxury. When you create a game like this, your player becomes very aware of all sounds, meaning that slight oddity becomes noticeable right away. Our strongest sound is definitely ambience. The best ambient sound is subtle, creating an atmosphere of sounds and noises within the environment in order to create a living, breathing virtual world, utilising minute details that people don't tend to notice, but really will have a big impact if they aren't there or are poorly done.
You're not going to fulfill anything of interest. Just stop screaming, and maybe something Something can come out of your life. Something remotely interesting. Stop!
Voice actors are some of the most underrated performers in games, and we went into voice design knowing this. Peter did a really fantastic job of capturing the essence of Michael Mortman, his calm and upper-class origins slowly trickling into a pool of madness. Sudden fits of rage, realizations of wrongs, all voiced with a strong understanding of the character.
Shut up, Caroline! I will cut out your tongue! They never stop rattling! They never stop rattling! They never stop rattling!
All these details sound designers focus on tend to go unnoticed, but it does play a very important role in making your experience just that much better.
You knew this would happen! You knew this would happen to your wife! You knew this would happen to my wife!
I was mainly responsible for creating the assets for Beyond Repair. The duration of my time is spent creating textures and models, which were then used within the engine in order to create the perfect atmosphere for the experience we desired.
You knew this was coming! You knew and you didn't even try to stop it!
I also worked on a separate outdoor level, which was primarily an indicative demo of the final art style, as creating a fully fledged set of assets for the expansive indoor area was an unrealistic aim for a single artist. The goal was to create a style reminiscent of Diablo 3 and World of Warcraft. The dark, brooding, desaturated tones of Diablo 3, with the exaggerated shapes and silhouettes employed by World of Warcraft. The restricted colour palette helped push the feeling of hopelessness and despair, whilst the exaggerated and off-kilter silhouettes made the environment feel jilted and unfamiliar. This also aided in helping the player identify his surroundings as well as important props, as most of the game would be dimly lit.
I don't know how me and Elizabeth are meant to continue from this, but I'm so sorry, my son. I'm so sorry.
Beyond Repair was an interesting project for me to work on. I have been a fan of horror for years, and was excited to try and create the same chilling experiences I have enjoyed in others' work. Throughout the project, I would be responsible for camera work, scripting, working on level design, and lighting alongside Aaron. I would also serve as the inspiration behind Michael Mortman, sharing his image in the form of the paintings throughout the manor, his voice, and being the creator of the AI behind the monster seen throughout the game. Working on the monster would be the most rewarding part of the project for me. In testing, we found that the echoing bang as it would teleport away and the surprise when it was round the corner was something that scared our game testers, their shock when the monster was right behind them, and their intrigue as they discovered more of Mortman's depravity being very satisfying to me.